There seems to be this idea that climate change is a future problem.
The sea levels rise a couple inches over the next century, Harold. I think we can adapt to that.
But the reality is, if you grow your own food, like many people here in Eswatini do, and all over sub-Saharan Africa, climate change is already here, and you're feeling it every single day.
At least 60% of Africa's population relies on subsistence agriculture, which is to say that they are primarily responsible for growing their own food. Compare that to Europe, where only about 4% of the population is employed in agriculture in any way. And those farms are industrial sized and not the small personal plots that are common around Africa. So if you live in Europe or another industrialized country, even if you are one of the few who farm, your family doesn't live or die on how much you can farm each year. Whereas a majority of the population in Eswatini and other African countries have two ways to feed their family: with crops or with a few livestock. Think of the crops as their checking account and the animals as a savings account.
The crops literally put food on the table, and maybe they sell a little bit of it in the market in order to get other types of food. Whereas the cattle or their livestock are more like a savings account or a rainy day fund. When their child needs to go to school, or they have an unexpected medical bill, or the harvest falls short in a year, they can sell their cattle or sell a few of their cattle in order to make up the lost income. And this has worked for generations. But what I've seen in Eswatini over the last few days is how both of these accounts are essentially running dry because of climate change. Farmers here primarily grow maize or corn on their small plots of land. They're already walking for their water, and so they don't have a reliable source of water for their crops. So they're reliant on the rains, and the rains are infrequent at best, and this has been getting worse with climate change. What about the Minister of Agriculture for the entire country?
We've had intermittent rainfall, which means that even in a year where we are having enough total rainfall, we find that it's so intermittent that we have a drought spell in between. As a country, we are aware that climate change is here with us, and it's actually messing up our agri-food systems.
This region has always been affected by the El Niño and La Niña weather cycles, even though they are thousands of kilometers away in the Pacific. El Niño pulls the rain away and leads to drought here, and La Niña dumps it all at once. And late last year, La Niña weather patterns led to flooding that decimated 173,000 acres of crops across the region. And studies have found that climate change has amplified these natural cycles. Research on the 2025 floods that hit Eswatini found that intense rainfall in southern Africa has become 40% more severe since pre-industrial times. And scientists are already predicting that a so-called super El Niño event is increasingly likely this year. This could lead to an average ocean temperature increase that is 4 times worse than the average El Niño, and could lead to catastrophic drought in southern Africa over the coming year. I walked through this field with this farmer who planted his field as he does every season. First, the hailstorm came and destroyed his crops. So he replanted what he could, and then the heat wave hit. And here it was, sitting empty. His only way to make money now is to climb up this mountain behind his home, gathers firewood, and sells a bunch for about 250 SWL, which is about $20 US. With that money, he can afford 1 meal of maize porridge a day, and him and his children go back to that pot throughout the day to try and get their fill. And of course, the only shelter they can often afford is made of mud. And when the rains come, it floods and destroys their homes. And so now he cooks, he stores his food, and he sleeps in this small kitchen. And his daughters have to sleep and stay with an aunt down the road because there's just simply no shelter that he can afford for them anymore. In the south of the country, I visited one of the most difficult situations that I've witnessed. This grandmother looks after these children because their parents abandoned them a few years ago.
Bashiya nje ke la nhluphekweni nje. Asinandlu. Sinendlala. Sizwa nje bomakhelwane.
I had to keep asking because I just couldn't understand how this could happen.
Kona kwasilimata ukuthi bahambe bahlukane sazama kubahlukanisa kubahlanganisa bangahlangani vele kwaba ukuthi abasakhona mbamba lokuhlala kanye kanye agcina ke vele sesiphila lempilo yokusesihlala sodwa la ekhaya uve sathi bathi ngasekhaya kwanze ukuthi bakhuluma intindredi bafisa buhlungu njengokuthi bathi nje angade bahlala endlini letincane kukhulume laba ke labakhile bona.
And of course, to make matters worse, her husband, her partner of many years, who farmed and looked after everything with her, he died a month ago. And that's why she's wearing the black that she is for this interview.
Zayikhona inkomo zafa ngendlala. Kwase kubasekela okunye lokulandelayo lapho. Imbuzi ke nazo ke adayisa ke mkhulu. Kwaphela ke lokho ke sicedele nje lokhu ade ashonile. Kusele nje imbili.
She's borrowing food for her and these children by the middle of the month. And her harvest that she gets can only even last a few months.
Lena iwiswe na imvula.
The community told me that they banded together and put together this tin lean-to that her and the kids huddle in each night to sleep.
So for these families whose crops had failed and their quote checking account had run dry, normally they would fall back on their cattle or their savings account in order to make up the lost income. But this year, a second crisis arrived.
Outbreak of foot-and-mouth disease. Eswatini can no longer export beef to its largest markets.
For the first time in more than 20 years, foot and mouth disease was detected in this country and quickly spread throughout it.
So just over here, above that hill, is the border with South Africa. Cattle, as you know, freely roam. They don't care about borders, and so they come through this border back and forth all the time. That is actually how it originated. It came through the border with a mixing of cattle like this and has now caused significant issues in this area and all around the country as this disease has spread.
If you have a coastline, it's a lot easier to control the spread or control access to your country through ports. But if it's just a porous border of fields, then intermingling becomes way more common. The spread across borders isn't the only issue. And this is actually where climate change comes back in. You see, the floodwaters that have decimated this area are actually the perfect way for this virus to be transmitted, and they actually spread much more easily through floodwaters. The calving season here, of course, was decimated. Cattle were giving birth to far fewer or none at all, and they stopped producing milk.
Bekungekunyana bekulukhuni. Ngoba ngisho nje impilo. Ngenkomo.
And so for these farmers, now their savings account was running dry.
As with many crises, those that are hit the hardest are the most vulnerable. It's the grandmothers looking after 6 children. It's the father that lost all of his crops for the year. But fortunately, they aren't alone.
We firstly started with in-kind food distribution, maize meal or rice, beans, as well as the vegetable oil, which is that those are the basic things that a person needs for him or her to live.
But of course, it's not just about immediate assistance, but about how can we help these families to withstand the next climate shock and give them long-term sustainability. One of the best ways to do this is by broadening the crops that these farmers grow. Crops like sorghum or cassava or sweet potatoes are actually more resistant to climate shocks and erratic rainfall like this. And then when it comes to maize, World Vision actually provides seeds to a variety of maize that can grow and mature quicker so that it can avoid a devastating climate interruption. And then in areas of the country like the low veld, which is more prone to flooding, what we've actually done is encourage farmers to shift from primarily a crop-based income to taking livestock like goats that are hardier, reproduce quicker, and are a more stable income in a region that is prone to flooding. What makes the crisis here in Eswatini worse is that it's not just a crisis in Eswatini. Climate shocks are affecting rural farmers in places all over sub-Saharan Africa. They are on a knife's edge as far as their ability to keep their crop going when any sort of erratic weather hits, and that erratic weather is hitting more than ever. So the more that these keep happening, the worse it's going to get for people of Eswatini and many other countries.